You are listening to the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. Our purpose is to inspire and equip you with knowledge and skills to enable you to have lasting and fulfilling relationships. Now your host, Joshua Mulgrew.
It's another week. It's another opportunity for us to have our marriage clinic. And I'm here with you. My name is Joshua Mulgrew. But I love it when you call me Uncle Josh. So your favorite African uncle is here to help you with relationship advice and things that are going to put your relationships and marriage in the best place. This is the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. And we normally come to you on Thursdays at this time, normally 8 p.m. GMT. But I know so many people listen to it the next day, and some listen to it weeks after. And some of you may even listen to this 100 years from now. So that's if Christ tarries. So we don't know when you will listen to it, but we are glad you are watching and you are listening to the Marriage Clinic podcast. Great. Last week I started on navigating long distance marriage, and it was so heavy that we had to work at having a number 2. Or a part 2. So as is our custom, I love to share a scripture with you. Proverbs 24 verse 3. It says, by wisdom, a house is built. And through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. May your homes and your marriages be filled with rare and beautiful treasures. All right, let's go. So in the way of a recap, we said a long distance marriage is a marriage where a husband and wife are geographically separated and do not have regular physical contact. They are geographically separated and do not have regular physical contact. This may be for a brief period or for an extended period. We gave examples where a couple or a husband and wife live in separate towns or cities or countries, or sometimes one is deployed, or where one particular person works, your spouse and family cannot follow. I have some friends who work with the UN and other aid agencies, and they work in war-torn countries. So there's no way they are going to be able to take their families with them. Frank, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. Serious humanitarian effort in Ukraine, but his family has to be elsewhere. So we understand that sometimes these things happen. Anyway, so we are looking at navigating long distance marriages, and this is your part 2. Part 2. I spoke about the challenges in part 1, the challenges that happen for the marriage or husband and wife. And then I also spoke about the challenges that you will have because you have children. So there are additional challenges if the marriage has children. And we also said if the couple are trying to have a child and they don't have a child, being apart does not make it easier to have a child. So, Uncle Josh, how do I make my marriage work? We have to live apart. Based on the work we do or issues that are going on, we have to live apart. How do I make my marriage work? Number one, establish a regular communication schedule. Agree on a regular time and method of communication that works for both of you and stick to it. This will help you stay connected and feel more secure in the relationship. So what do? We agree that when it is I'm a night person, you are a morning person. So when it's 12 in the night where you are, it's going to be 5 a.m. where I am. So I'm going to make sure I'm up by 4:30, and then we talk from 5 to 6, and you are going to delay your sleeping time so that we can talk. Establish a regular communication schedule. And when we each go to work, at least 2 or 3 times within the day, we check up on each other. Now, what it does is that it helps you to stay connected. It makes you feel more secure in the relationship, especially for a woman. Now, men, understand this. When you check up on your wife during her day, it makes her feel loved and makes her feel like I am on your mind. It's important. All right. Now, number 2, if you do have children, you need to develop a co-parenting plan. If you have children, you need to develop a co-parenting plan. Work together to develop a co-parenting plan that takes into account each other's schedules and responsibilities. This will help you maintain a united front as parents and provide stability for your children. I know a couple that live apart, but the father helps the children with their homework every evening through FaceTime calls or WhatsApp calls or Zoom calls, whichever one works at that point in time. So you see the children with the phone and they are like, Daddy, this is the homework. Then they show it, or they take a picture and send it to their dad and he says, number 2 is wrong, number 3 is wrong. So while he's doing that with the kid, mama gets the opportunity to take a 1-hour break where she can take a shower, she can rest a little bit, eat her meal, because the children are. Then sometimes when you're far away, you need to be the listening ear to the children. How was your day? What happened today? How does that make you feel? What's going on here? So you just need to develop a co-parenting plan if you have children. Number 3, be their partner, not a detective. Be their partner, not a detective. One of the problems when there's a long distance marriage is that sometimes insecurity and suspicion can creep in so much that you find out that they are now asking questions. What time did you get back to your place? Who is there with you? Are you sure that your boss that I had you in the office with, I don't like it? Why are you still there at this point in time? Blah, blah. Ah, man. She's your wife. She's your partner. You're not the headmaster, for heaven's sake. So what you need to do is be their partner, not a detective. I know someone who says, turn the phone camera on, turns it on. Switch view, scan the room, slow down, go under the bed, open the wardrobe, open the fridge, let me see the ceiling. Oh my goodness. So it's important that you are not a detective. Okay? It's important you are not a detective. Trust the person because you're far away. What can you do? All right? Brings us to number 4. Use technology to your advantage. Use all the apps, all the technology, all the reminders, everything you can do to make sure it works. Please do it to make sure it works. Number 5, learn to share the boring details. It will save your marriage. Learn to share the boring details. What do I mean by the boring details? When you are talking with your spouse, don't limit your interactions to being about significant things that happened. The beauty of a marriage is that you talk about everything. Whether the price of tomatoes has gone up, whether the neighbor's dog is barking too loud, whether the guy who helped you change your flat tire, or the guy in the office who has a body odor. All these things make up the marriage. So learn to share boring details. And men, share boring details. She asks you, how was your day? Fine. Fine is not an answer. Oh yeah, it was a normal day. We got to the office. I mean, there was no paper in the printer. We had to go back and forth to get that done. All those things allows the person to mentally be with you within your day. All right. So share boring details. Brings me to number 6. Be faithful. Be faithful. Being apart is not an excuse to cheat. Being apart is not an excuse to cheat. Some people look at it as once my out of sight, out of mind. No, you made a vow. You swore before God and you swore before people. Do not cheat. And here's the truth. I mean, for the next 3 weeks, we're going to do a series on cheating. But here's the thing. When you cheat, ultimately, you will be caught. When you cheat on your spouse, I assure you, you will be caught. It may take a week, it may take a month, it may take a year, it may take a decade. But one way, some way, somehow, someday it comes out. We once had a family friend who went for further studies abroad, and he came back, nice guy, family, they had about 5 more kids, and then One day they are there and what we like to call Hafko, a biracial, a mixed race lady shows up on the doorstep and says, I believe you are my dad. Meanwhile, Oga had sworn that as he went to, I won't mention the country, to work, he had been faithful. And his wife had believed him for the best part of 19 years. But here's this 19-year-old girl standing at the door and saying, that's my dad. So he may have kept the lie for 19 years. But here it was going. So be faithful. Everything you need to do to be faithful, be faithful. Next week, we're talking about cheating. So when we are talking about that, we'll deal with it. Then share responsibilities. The fact that you are not around does not mean you cannot help with the responsibilities in the home. And in both ways. You can arrange meals for him. There may be a cook that goes in to cook when he's away. You can be the one that checks up on the cook, make sure that the fridge is stocked, make sure that things are done. You can be making sure bills are paid. The TV guy comes to check the decoder. The generator is serviced. Don't leave things on each other. Share responsibilities. We're running out of time. Make time for intimacy. I'm not talking about phone sex. Physical intimacy may be more challenging in long-distance marriage, but there are still ways to maintain intimacy, such as sending each other care packages, scheduling romantic video dates, sending flirty text messages. All these things maintain intimacy. Brings me to number 9. Plan for your visits and vacations. Make it special. Take each other out. I mean, when you are together, let the person appreciate your presence. Don't be there and still working on your laptop. Don't be there and be on your phone. When it comes to the visit, make the visit about the other person. Brings me to a funny one, which is number 10. Enjoy your time alone. Enjoy your time alone. I love being with my wife. I would much rather be with my wife than any other person. And that's the truth. I'm not just saying it because I have a marriage podcast. I mean, I love being with my wife. If I didn't, I would say it. And I probably would not be doing this anyway. But when we travel, we enjoy being apart. I do the things I can't do when she's around. The good things, the safe things. I know what some of you are thinking. No. Oga, come back. There's some catching up on reading, catching up on certain movies or series she doesn't like. There are some series I can't watch when my wife is around because she just doesn't like them. Anything that has to do with snakes, anything that has to do with horror movies, or she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So I get to watch them when she's not around. All right. I get to play video games when she's not around. There are so many things I get to do when she's not around. So enjoy your time alone. You can do your pedicures and your manicures and whatever cures you have to do. Do your facial mask, wear your granny underwear, go in those comfortable clothes when he's not around because you get your time alone. And then brings me to the last one. The last one is work at being together. Work at being together. You need to finally be in the same place. A long distance marriage should be temporal. It shouldn't be permanent. All right. So this has been great. This has been the Marriage Clinic podcast. As I love to say, a podcast about love, marriage, and your personal development. And we go into Ask Uncle Josh. Ask Uncle Josh. Well, this question came in and this person wants to take us a little bit deep. So the person says, Uncle Josh, please, what is a soul tie? What is a soul tie? A soul tie. Wow. You're taking me down a rabbit hole that is interesting. Now, if you are a believer, you believe in the Christian faith, go ahead and listen. If you are someone who is agnostic or don't really believe in these things, you can end your podcast here. But for believers, what we do understand and believe, and I've seen evidence of, a soul tie is a link, a spiritual link that you have with somebody. The Bible says, and a husband shall leave his mother and father and be his wife, and they shall become one flesh. There's something about relationships that binds the two of you together. And it is normally activated during sex. So there's a strong belief, and there are some theological backings to it, that when you are having sex with somebody, you develop a soulish tie with the person, where the person is intricately, big English, is closely linked to you, even when the person, you haven't seen the person for years. So as believers, we believe that these are some of the things that we do that create soul ties. Another thing is when you make covenants with people. You're dating someone and you swear on something, or you cut yourself, you develop a soulish tie. And the only way to get rid of soulish ties is through prayer and dealing with somebody who understands how to handle soulish ties and deal with them. So thank you so much for your questions. It's been a pleasure being here. This is the Marriage Clinic podcast. My name is Uncle Josh. Please follow us on all social media platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, name it. Just look for Dr. Joshua Mogri and you will find me there. Like, follow, share, okay? Next week, we'll be back with my partner cheated. What next? All right, so take care. See you next week. Love you all. Bye-bye.